adversity? Bring it. The struggle? We welcome it. Snooze on life? Never that. We are Dave Regina and Mike Pirelli, and this is the No Snooze Podcast. Come on.
Welcome back to the No Snooze Podcast, episode 15, episode 2 of the quarantine. Right?
That's
2,
right.
Are we on?
Epi 15, baby. Don't have a title for this one. We'll figure that out in a little bit.
Survive in advance. That should be the title.
Technical, I like that. Survive in advance. We had some technical difficulties getting started, but we're here, and we're giving the people what they want, Mikey P.
Yeah, I need some sun. I'm looking very pale.
Yeah, I have a white shirt on right now, and I'm kind of blending in.
Yeah.
But,
and I want to note to all the viewers out there who are watching us on YouTube, this is one of the projects I didn't do during this quarantine, but I hung that shelf, and my lovely wife came over with a ping pong ball and put it on there without saying anything to see if it was level. Didn't move.
Wow, she had no confidence in you.
0, and it did not move. I just dropped the screw gun, and I walked upstairs.
Yeah, so you sounded like me there because you did a motion of a drill, and then you said the hammer. So that's definitely me. And I can tell you right now, if I hung that thing, there would be 0 glasses on it because all of them would be broken.
I like how you said like you're not handy, and then you're like, I painted a wall, like I'm getting handier. I don't think that's considered being handy.
Wait, did you see the message that I sent you when I was painting the nursery?
Yeah, you were pointing to Karina to paint.
Right. So I had
my wife. We should try to clip that in.
I had my pregnant wife painting. It's safe paint, by the way. But she had a bandana over her face to cover the fumes, and I was directing her, like, babe, a little bit to the left. You missed a spot there. So I like to call myself an architect in those times.
Yeah, it's one thing to take action. It's the other thing to create action and have someone else do it for you. So
that's right, kid. Give us a Podbod update, man. It's definitely been tough, but I see you waking up. I commend your efforts. So talk to me, kid.
Guys, I've been punting, but I officially caught that punt and I'm running it back.
There we go.
Last week I tried getting up at different hours in the morning, just like how I felt. Didn't work out well. This week, business picked up back again, so I started doing 5 a.m. every day. And Monday, Tuesday, did push-ups. I think I did 100, 150, and then yesterday I had a big meeting at 11 that I had to prepare for, so I took like 6 hours to prepare because I was behind with all this going on. And then today I'm at 250 for the day, so I am ramping it up, feeling good, and loving my pushies again. So that's why I'm looking so tight.
Welcome back, Mike.
It's good to be back. The tortoise is back.
Glad to have you back, kid. I'm sure you know, but the Peloton is in full effect.
I was going to say, it's nice that you finally got off the Peloton so we could record an episode because there's a lot of people, especially on my side, that are saying you've been sleeping on that thing.
Listen, man, I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to get 20 miles in a day. But it's a game changer for me, man. It's a lot of cardio, but I'm making sure that I'm doing some dumbbell work, some pushies too, so we're good.
Where'd you come up with the 20 miles? Is that like for one of the workouts?
Well, so the 20 miles, it was based off like 60 minutes because a 3-minute mile on a bike is hard, but it's not like incredibly hard. So that's been my pace. So if I take a 30-minute class, I try to get 10 miles in that 30 minutes. But if I do a 60-minute class, I try to get to that 20. And then if I don't finish in time, like if I do a 45-minute class, I just make sure that I do like a 20-minute recovery ride just to get to the 20 miles.
I forgot to ask you, Phil Catt was saying how good he was on the Pelly. Did you guys do a class together yet?
Not together, but he was actually showing me a little bit. His Pelly name is Thick Nasty, which is incredible.
That's incredible.
So shout out Philly Cat. All right, man. That's the Podbot. It's good to have you back once again. Give me a little Prego update. How's Dana feeling?
She's good. She's been working a lot because she does a lot of the back end and organizational stuff for her company. And at a time like this, she has stayed pretty busy in the house. She is feeling good. I think we're all a little nervous as far as the repercussions of the virus. And I'm trying to be really, really careful if and when I have to go out, because in Connecticut, we're deemed essential. So it's been, it's been a process to work with your pregnant wife. And I think the biggest thing, and I said last episode, is the food intake. It's been all over the place. Luckily, I'm keeping up with the push-ups. I don't think it's really impacted. But she is definitely starting to pick up some cravings, and they are all over the map. We're eating like eight-year-olds at school lunch every day. It's like mac and cheese, chicken nuggets, like whatever, peanut butter and jelly. It's been crazy.
All right, that's awesome, man. So we're doing well as well, I guess. And Karina's taking it day by day, and we're getting closer and closer. But it's so scary now to think about. I don't know if you've been seeing on the news. Scary to think about not being able to be in the hospital room when they give birth, right?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I was going to ask, how are you guys dealing
crazy
with that? How are you guys dealing with that thought?
So again, I know this is a focus of ours, but that's something that's basically uncontrollable, right? So we're trying our best, and if she gets anxious about it, we just talk it out. And I'm showing empathy, trying my best to, not only remain calm, but keep her calm during it. But the reality is, I can't even fathom not being in the delivery room for the birth of my first daughter.
It's definitely a little scary, and keeping Dana calm also because of that fact has been tough. She's been good because it's down the road, like 4 months or whatever. But I always joke with her, and I joked with her before, that I would be in the waiting room with a cigar and a whiskey because I am personally very nervous about the delivery process. Right. I don't do well with blood when it's not mine. If I'm bleeding, I'm completely fine. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. It's just I cut my finger open or dislocated my pinky. I'm not squeamish in that sense. But if someone else has an issue, stuff you've sent me in the past, yeah. I might hit my knees and fall to the ground.
Yeah, I don't mind the gory stuff, but it's going to be interesting for you because you're going from being a punter to a potential quarterback.
Yeah.
Said, hook.
And I think I'll rise to the occasion, but it's one of those things that I've never even thought about. The actual process of delivery. You think about when the baby comes, you think about all that fun stuff. You don't think of the screaming and the hand holding and all that chaos, which I've seen some, I'm avoiding all types of videos, but I've seen some previews.
And it's funny too. So now during like stressful situations, I'm sure you can relate, but you'll be laying in bed, the dog will start barking. You got to do 4 different things. Now we're being mindful when that stuff happens. We say to each other, "Oh, imagine when we add a baby to it on top of it."
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, but it's a fun time, man. And I always just keep thinking about how dope it is that we get to actually document leading up to this time, and then continue to document that process as it unfolds. So, that's it on the Prego update.
I also want to thank, and I'm sure you've gotten this too, everyone that's reached out and asked about Dana specifically, clients, friends, family. It's been very nice to see that people are worried about her. Obviously, they asked about me, but the real reason is they're worried about her. So they were like, "Yeah, Mike can take care of himself." But so thank you to everyone.
Good point.
We appreciate
Very good point. Ditto. All right, Mike. So this is now Epi 15, like we said, and we are going to focus on talking about how we're dealing with this whole coronavirus pandemic, but specifically the last episode, we touched on a couple things in terms of the finances. So I think that's a good place to, to pick up. And when we put the questies up, there was a ton of questions that came in on the topic. So that's why we're going to choose that topic on finances, Kip.
Yeah, I think it's an important topic to cover. I know personally, I've been more in tune with what's going on with all of the, you don't want to drive yourself nuts with the markets and all that good stuff, but you should be prepared and see how it affects your wealth or whatever savings you have or your job or so. It's an important time to be knowledgeable and all that stuff.
Right. Absolutely. So one thing that we did, and again, I really don't want to this is a tough time because us going out there and giving financial advice, during a pandemic would be a little bit different than us giving that advice, in typical times. But one thing that we had to do right from the start, and we just did it. We being a little transparent here, but we just created a debt plan. And we've accumulated a couple $1,000s in credit card debt, which typically we never really had. But, obviously with the new house, all the expenses that are coming in, we had to, go ahead and use some credit cards. So the first thing we did when we realized that this time is now, we created an Excel spreadsheet with all of our expenses in terms of, the credit cards. And there was a little exercise that we did, but it was figuring out each APR and the interest rates on each credit card. And what we did was focus on the credit card that basically has the most interest and paying the minimum of the ones that have the least. Mm-hmm. And again, we're not talking, $10,000, $20,000 of debt. We're talking a couple grand. But when we did that spreadsheet, we were able to see that, in 3 months, we could knock this thing out. So it's taking that overwhelming piece of like, damn, we got ourselves into some debt, but now being strategic in the approach to try to tackle it.
Yeah, which is the first step is figuring out like where you stand, which I like.
Right.
And to echo your point, it's not, what we're saying now is not advice, more of something that you guys can look at and say, oh, it's a good idea, or no, it doesn't work for us. It's just more of what we're doing now. And the whole debt approach, I love getting rid of debt that's credit card or any high interest stuff. The big thing for me that we've done since I've gotten back is start to audit expenses, specifically reoccurring ones. So looking at any type of subscription. That's something I do anyway, usually every couple months, to see if there's any things that jumped up huge, because there's some things like cable and all that stuff that they give you a teaser rate and then it jumps up by like 200%. And there's so many options now just for everything that it's, you'll get a renewal charge. And this is something I picked up, I think, from Bigger Pockets Money. But if you just call, the banks are betting that you won't call them and dispute a charge, like a renewal charge. And I've gotten, $500 back just from doing that in the last couple months. Just saying, hey, this is an annual charge. I have 5 accounts with you. Can you waive it this year? And then they sometimes waive it and sometimes they don't. But it's worth a call.
Wow. That's a great tip there. But yeah, it's basically a full, recalibration of where your life, was and where it is now. Fortunately for us, we do still receive our salaries, but the reality is you don't know how long that can continue. I know they just passed this this bill in terms of people receiving relief, and I'm happy that I think it's households that are over $150,000. I'm very happy that the government has decided not to really send that money to those and focus on individuals and families who really, really need it. That's a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and if you can minimize some expenses and you want to give back to a local business or family member or someone you want to help out, it frees up money to reallocate it to more important things. So that's a big focus now. And then the other thing is, I'm big on long term, and anything I want to do and invest in is going to be a long-term asset. So now I'm really looking at trying to get in a position where when we get out of this, to acquire either a rental property, more index funds, more assets that in time, I always, excuse me, I always want to bet on America and our economics, because in the past we've always risen to the occasion and outpaced and improve. So it's a philosophy thing. And now I'm realizing once we come out of this, there's going to be some bounce of some sort. I don't know, but I want to position so that I could take advantage of this time where rates are very low. People are trying to liquidate their assets, where you're able to acquire either, a house or more index funds or something. So I'm trying to accelerate through this.
Yep. No, I love it, and it's going to continue to be tough for a period of time that unfortunately we can't foresee. One thing I definitely want to mention, and certain individuals have been asking, and this kind of went back and forth at personal conversations at work, and just in life in general, but we see that the government is going to start to give some relief of, mortgage payments and car payments and that type of stuff. My advice to everybody out there would be to make sure that you're continuing to make those payments that you can make. Because at some point they're going to be due anyway. And, right now, if you're unemployed, that's one thing. But there's been certain people that, have been saying, hey, did you see the 90-day talks of mortgage relief? For me personally, I would never take 3 months off if I can continue to make the payments. So I just want that to be clear, that if you can make the payments still to the bills and your current situations, continue to do that. I think that's real important.
So I'm gonna disagree on that,
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I think if you look at your finances and you realize that it's definitely an ethical thing, right? Like if you can make the payment because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. But I look at a lot of things that's like, if a bank in the other situation that wasn't forced to help everyone, they'll whack you with fees when they can. So this is probably not the right thing to say. But if you could free up potentially, say your mortgage is $2,000, and you don't know what's going to happen in the next month, you don't know if you're going to have a job, you don't know what's going to happen with the market, I would defer if there's no big penalty, because that at least puts you in a position where you have a little extra income or loose liquidated money that you can reapply somewhere. God forbid something happens, medical bills, certain things that are unforeseen. So my thought is, if you're not going to get penalized, why take that risk? But I totally get what you're saying, stay in the routine, because if you fall out of that routine, then you can get behind and it could be unfixable.
Yeah, and it's. I'm glad you disagree, but it's situational too. Look at our situations. You're more commission based on a salary, whereas like my wife and I are both fixed. Exactly. In that sense, I'm speaking more to the fixed incomes right now and not being affected by unemployment and all that. But absolutely, if there's no fee attached to it, then, no harm, no foul. But just be prepared that if you don't make these payments now, it's not like the government is eating them. You're going to have to make them at some point. But definitely, good point there. All right, kid, let's talk no snooze recommendations. And it's been interesting now to see, because a lot of people have been taking us up on the recommendations, and they're sending us pics. If it's a video that you recommended, if it's a protein that I recommended, it's cool to see that people are actually listening to it and trying the products out.
Yeah.
So mine is going to actually play into the financial piece that we're going to discuss in today's episode. And it's an exercise that we did, my wife and I, we called it Survival Kitchen. Ooh. And look, Mike got excited. Survival Kitchen. Ooh, where's the refrigerator? So basically what it is we're living right now in a pandemic. Everyone is in a stressed state of mind. And one thing that we did was we took inventory of all the food that we actually had in the house, right? So we did that, and we made a bet to ourselves that we weren't going to spend $1 this week on food. And we have now come out, and it's almost the end of the week now, and we have not spent one dime on it. So we went into our pantry, and we ate rice, we ate oatmeal, we ate the beans. We cleared out pretty much everything that we've had. And on average, just the two of us, when we go food shopping, it's $150 to $175. So we just saved that money. We moved it over to the savings account. Nice little exercise, for people to take inventory of what you have. And it's amazing, because you will see how much you can actually eat if you were ever forced to do so.
That's pretty awesome. I was saying to Dana, I feel like we're in an episode of Top Chef, where they have or Chopped, whatever it is. And they have these quick fire and challenges where you have to cook with what you have.
Right.
I feel like that.
Yeah, that's similar.
We all have like frozen foods right now, so it's like rice in the microwave mixed with pad thai frozen. But that's awesome. That's a good idea. It probably helps you get organized too, right?
Oh yeah, and you basically look at it forced us to look at like the expiration dates. We don't have anything in cans that's really expired because we just moved, so we had done that pretty recently. But we went all the way back to the back of that pantry, and we pulled beans out from the front. And usually we like to do takeout once a week, and we just haven't done it, man. So it's been cool. We didn't go food shopping, and we didn't spend any money on the outside.
That's pretty awesome. So mine is will complement that because what to do with your money once you save it. I want everyone to Google, and I'm recommending Googling compound interest and learning everything you can about what some people, I think it's maybe Warren Buffett, calls it the eighth wonder of the world. It's basically just saying that time is your greatest asset and long-term horizons are the way people become wealthy. And the concept of compounding is that actions you take, whether it's financial, personal, whatever it is, that create more profit in the future and multiply exponentially, makes your life and your finances and everything grow quicker. So whether it's compound effort in your work, where if you like this we're doing right now, for me it's compound because I have this content for No Snooze and it's a business we're building, as well as my real estate. It's a complement. So all of this creates more business, which creates more clients, which creates more money to put back into our businesses. So the compound interest thing is big, and I think a lot of people, I know when I started reading more into it and taking it seriously, it kind of changed my whole outlook on everything.
Yeah, it's really alarming too. The whole, I guess, formula of compound interest. But that's something that's very relatable to us too in terms of the deferred compensation, which I talk about. But I actually sit employees down and I show them exactly what compound interest means, because right now $5 may not sound like a lot. Once that compounds to $100, and then every single year that keeps compounding, it's not just a one-time interest rate. Compound interest is something that happens over and over and over again.
And
so that's a good piece, man.
Yeah, and that's exactly the trick to use, is like take your 10-year value of that, however you want to calculate it, even if it's a ballpark, and then it makes you more likely to save it. Because if you're like, all right, this $5 is really $100, then you're more likely to not get the coffee or whatever. So
good stuff.
So the other thing we're doing right now with our finances and just getting through this whole pandemic in general is having conversations to get on the same page. We're talking about potential worst case scenarios. So if potentially we both have no income coming in, how do we make our savings last? What can we spend on? What can we cut back if something like that should happen? I'm not saying completely stop everything all at once, but be prepared to scale back if needed. I think it's important, if you do have a significant other, to get on the same page. Talk about the worst case scenario, because if you talk about the worst case scenario, it is less scary because it's a known entity now. If you're like, hey, worst case scenario, we both don't have any income. We've saved up enough to last, 8 months, whatever it is, and we don't have to panic yet.
You're making a great point on potentially creating like a new norm for yourselves, right? There's a lot of controversy that I guess you can go two ways, right? You can dive in slowly, which is something we always talk about with with fitness and advice for people, doing it that way. But then there's the way of just diving right in, not just getting your feet wet, but fully preparing for the worst case scenario. You ultimately preparing for a worst case scenario for 3 months. God forbid that does happen, your new norm now changes 110%, because you were able to see where you were living. Then you went to the extreme factor of, oh my God, this is worst case scenario. And then hopefully at the end of it, you might not still be at the norm, but you've literally just taken something from 0 to 100. Now your new average is 50%.
So to build on your point, there's a thing in nutrition that has, I don't know if it's new or just it's been popular lately, but they restrict their diet very minimal so that they can add types of foods so that they can figure out where the inflammation is or what's not working with them. I'd like to do that also with finances and expenses. So in a situation like this, you have a really good excuse to do that. So you look at all your subscriptions, all your expenses, and you try to scale back as much as possible right off the bat. And then you slowly start introducing things that you realize you really miss exponentially that you took out. So like for people, the gym or a subscription to Hulu, which is, $5, but for them, it makes all the difference. Cable, like one of the big things that we cut back on when we bought the house to just help with expenses was our cable bill. And we got streaming, and we got, I think at the time it was PS View. Now it's YouTube TV. Mm-hmm. And instead of $280 a month, it went down to $100 a month. And, I've held on long enough. Dana's pushed for the cable, but I've run all the back end of all the subscriptions because I'm always moving stuff. So I was able to kind of veto her.
Yeah, no, and that's something you guys did from the jump. I remember when you guys first did it, I thought you were crazy, but if you were to take the amount of months and times that by the $200 that you saved, pretty impressive.
Yeah, and Dana's warming up to it. We watch a lot of shows anyway that, like, Bravo is always on at our house. And then YouTube, I'm constantly on YouTube. I think that'll just be the norm at some point where people just go on YouTube and watch No Snooze Podcast all day.
Right, absolutely. That's it. It's the virtual way of the future.
Yeah, I think the virtual stuff in our business and just in general, and people educating themselves on it is going to be so accelerated now because people are understanding you can work from home, you can virtually jump into a meeting. I think efficiency is going to skyrocket as far as businesses, people's lifestyles. I think it's going to be a good thing ultimately.
Yeah, and I had speaking to the virtual piece, I actually had my first virtual doctor's appointment, and I thought it was going to be like the weirdest thing in the world, and it was so convenient, so easy, and it had to do with, a little rash that I have. So he was able to look at the rash, see it. I really got close. I sent pictures in. He was able to diagnose it, send my prescription over to CVS. I went down, got it, boom. It was like the quickest thing, no hassle. So it's just, it's crazy to see where I think we're going to be going as a country in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and personally, it's forced me to be smarter about showings and things because I am still going out and new listings are coming on while this is going on. So I had to make a best practices that I send to all of my showings saying, thank you for showing the property. When you arrive at the property, you must sit in the car and wait for me to text you when you should come in. Please don't touch any lights. You cannot bring any kids at this time. We're trying to limit the amount of traffic. We appreciate you showing, and I look forward to working with you. So, like, just having a very organized expectation set, it's an exercise that when you're in your business and you're trying to close deals and everything, it falls to the wayside. But now you're forced to do all that process stuff, which has been good. And communicating that to a client, which in turn shows how you're adapting to times and trying to embrace it versus fight it.
Yeah, no, and it's odd right now because I think this is the hardest part of it because every business is trying to figure out their new way to navigate. So it's only going to get easier. God forbid this pandemic continues to get worse and worse and worse. I do agree with you where our efficiency level is going to skyrocket because this becomes your new norm, and we're learning new things every day as a society.
And even like this is so convenient for us. I mean, it's been difficult to get it all worked out and figure out the process. But the amount of time we're saving driving, and shout out to CV for doing all that. He's pointing at himself.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's true. We've put him through the ringer. We finally got a routine down. We had a location that was a little closer that we could all meet at. But I think this is the way of the future because once the kids come, it's going to be very difficult to run away for a couple hours. We actually might need to do it in person at a bar once kids come.
Right. And also, there's certain people that come on podcasts and they dress phenomenally when they know that there's visual, but then they have boxer briefs on while they have the suit top. So I don't know if that's what you're doing right now.
I knew you were going to ask that.
There you go.
Look, it's on the last notch.
All right. Ooh, getting skinny.
What do you want to do? I'm slipping right out of these things.
All right, good. You passed the test. I put you on the spot. Yeah, man. You know what's good for us too is that there's been so much communication and activity on social media. I know you're playing around with the TikTok. Lauren's doing her thing on Instagram, and same with me. CV's on the YouTube. So this is all good times, and we really appreciate everybody engaging. But Mike, we had a ton of questions that came in, and they really touched on the financial piece. So I think we'll get into some questions. You good with that?
Yeah, pumped.
Cool. So Russ was the first one, and we both went to high school with Russ. So shout out to Russ.
What up, Russ? Great 3-point shooter.
He had a phenomenal jump shot. Absolutely lights out. Still can't beat me in horse, but shout out to you, Russ. So would you be buying stocks? It's a short question, and it's a little tough to answer. For me personally, right now, I am not investing any additional money into new stock opportunities. I don't know about you.
Yeah. So again, this isn't financial advice. This is just thoughts on.
Yeah. This is what we're doing.
Disclaimer.
Right.
I would say if you have dispensable income that you're okay with not touching for a very long time, I would, and I like playing the long game. I would buy index funds. That's just my philosophy. I like things that pay dividends, create compound interest, and over time, the chances are stacked in your favor. I don't know what's going to happen. The whole market could go away, but chances are better that it won't. And it's like, to me, buying a property at this time and just parking some money and letting it grow. And then at some point, when the market does recalibrate, then you could reallocate some of those funds to investments or whatever you want to do it. So for me, play the long game. I think you do index funds, and I think you do dollar cost averaging, which is just a basic concept of continually buying, even if the market's starting to go up, so that your returns average out and you're not worrying about trying to catch it on a down and miss all of the gains.
Right. And just to echo on that, I think a piece is also the risk and the reward. If you're in a situation to where you can invest that money, cool, go ahead and do that. But right now, I'm personally not doing it because I don't have the means to take additional funds. I have to worry about my mortgage. I have to worry about the investment property that we have. I have to worry about, the expenses right now. But the good thing is that, like, all my money in my deferred compensation, excuse me, and I've been going back and forth with certain employees too because they're nervous. We know people that have lost $500,000 and they're retiring in less than a year. That's tough. For me, I have another, 20 years before I ultimately tap out. So I can go through a, financial crisis right now, and I could probably make it through another one. But it's all situational for where you stand.
Yeah, and to clarify my answer, this was money that we already had invested that we decided to take out just to figure out our finances. Very fortuitously, it was done before this all happened, and we did miss out on a lot of gains. But ultimately, now we're taking that same amount and we're going to put it back systematically through the next, couple months or so. But I have been looking to see, because if it like plummets, I hope it doesn't. But if it does, if it's money that I would have had in there anyway, then my thought is if I can put it in, the downside's limited, and long term it could be worth in compound interest, tenfold. So that's what I'm doing right now. But we do have a safety net that you're talking about. So I don't want to misguide people and say just
absolutely. But this is all about, again, what we're going through. We can talk about our experiences and situations, but we're not going to go tell you to invest, $5,000 in Purell, which might be a really good investment right now. Just saying.
I was just laughing in my head thinking of like an episode in a year from now where I'm just like, my hair's all pulled out and I'm like, I bought too many.
Right.
It's at zero.
Bought too many. All right, cool, man. So that's you, Russ. Jack D wrote in, is there one area of your lives that you and or your spouse spend too much money? Oh, Mike's pleading the fifth here.
No, suits. 100%. Suits and food. It's my
suits and food for you.
Suits is because I rationalize to myself that I wear them every day usually, and I don't really buy a lot of clothes at this moment. It's a lot of self-branded No Snooze sweatshirts, which we're probably gonna do another run at some point, and Mike Pirelli Grant Real Estate branded stuff. But I love a good suit. It makes you feel good. I just like dressing up. The other thing with food, I think it's lack of organization for me. I was in a routine before this all happened. Then all the things I usually buy weren't available, and it's hit the fan. So now it's just like, I don't know. I punted food shopping.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, in terms of the food shopping, we spend 150 to 175 a week, like I said. But if I was eating out every single meal for $10, $13 a meal, I mean, that adds up quickly with the amount of food that I eat.
That's a good point, though. It's not, for me, it's not eating out. It's when I go shop to eat.
Oh, gotcha.
Like when I go do my grocery shopping, because I just see stuff and we grab it, it goes to waste. We don't meal prep well. And I don't want to put Dana on blast, but sorry.
No. I got you. And for us, for us, it's a unique time because I never really thought about it like this. But when you're going through something like this right now, I would say that both my wife and we spend too much money on our cars, on our car payments. We both lease, nice vehicles. And right now that's over $1,000 a month that could be, somewhere else. I probably would do it differently right now, but on a typical, month, it doesn't really, have any effect on us. But that would be really the only thing right now in our lives that I could say that we're spending a little too much on.
That's a good one. But that's pretty, you could fix that at some point. That's like, that's not and if the whole thing is if it creates a lot of joy for you and you really enjoy it and it's worth it, then sometimes even if you're overpaying, I think for happiness sake, it's worth it because you're going to be more productive. You're going to create more income. So it's always hard to make that call.
And it's something that we're we choose that. You know what I mean? This is a choice. This is a choice. And just my personality, it's pretty much everything in life. I always do want something new. It doesn't have to be new in terms of like 2020, 21 edition, but I'm always looking for change. So buying cars was never something that I was into. And I'm not handy. I'm not good at fixing things like we know. So, just me leasing vehicles is something that I've always done.
And apparently you're an epic lease negotiator.
There's a couple stories. We could get into that another time. But yes, I am definitely, I will credit myself as a top-notch negotiator.
I love it. Is there any expense that you overpay that you want to try to fix pretty quickly? So right now, Mike, we're pretty bare bones. Nice. We made the adjustments when we bought the house and we saw like our savings account because we put ourselves in a really nice situation in terms of our savings. But then we took that all, and made a nice down payment on the house. So when we did that was really our, time to recalibrate and, reassess. Nice. Yeah, I only ask because the food thing's been my Achilles heel for however long. And I've been, I started to get it under control, or we started to get it under control, but this whole thing threw us way off. So some things you do have to just say, I'll have to deal with it once I get through this period.
Right. And it's also just focusing on, right now it's a priority and it's about making it through. It's taking the time to say, you know what, we are going to get past this and we are going to be able to get back on our feet at some point. Can't get too overwhelmed in that process and start making too many changes too fast because then your life just looks crazy.
Yep.
All right, Karina, great name. Went to college with her. And Mike, I'm curious to know your opinion on this.
Wife Karina?
No.
Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic. I was like, all right.
No. Her name is Karina, and she actually did go to school with us. Is it worth looking into a refinance right now? I have a condo in New Jersey.
So I would say, like you said before, it's a case-by-case basis. Talk to a mortgage professional. They'll run the numbers, and it's all based on your time you're in the property. If you're there for an extended period of time or you're going to hold on to the property, then even if it takes 5 years to recoup, we are at historic lows for rates. It could have changed since this comes out or since we recorded this, But I would say it's free to have that conversation, and there's a lot of people out there looking to have that conversation with you. So call your bank, call a mortgage professional, and go through the exercise. I think it's 100% worth going through the exercise.
No, great point. And I'll get a little personal here. I mean, Mike, excuse me, you know this, but at the investment property, we are currently in the process of doing the refi. And Mike is exactly right. The market is changing daily, but we actually keep putting off the closing because this thing has dropped so much. And right now I have PMI, which is personalized mortgage insurance on the investment property, which is like $480 a month because it's a bigger unit. And once I do refi, that now comes off, and my rate has now dropped 1.5 points already. So we're looking at a really, really good rate. It might be a good time to do it. But again, like Mike said, make sure that you're in the financial situation to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and there's closing costs, but if you could roll those into the loan,
exactly,
and it could make a big difference long term. It could definitely make a big difference short term. And if you can free up, like we talked about, an extra $500, $300, that's significant.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's huge. Eddie, this is a good one. This is Mike. This is something that you had said, but we could definitely bounce back and forth here. Dig deeper on your network is your net worth concept.
Ooh, I like that one. So I think I said it on the podcast. So I have that on my laptop.
Yeah.
I'm going to revise it a little bit. So I think networking for the sake of networking is okay, but if you want to do it well, you need to provide value to your network and create relationships that are actually beneficial to both sides, at the very least to them, to create IOUs, for lack of a better word, but basically to create a situation where they want to repay you in some form, whether that's new clients, help in the future, whatever it is. So when you do create a network, for example, I've started working with a great videographer for a lot of stuff for real estate, and I'm helping him with his branding. I'm helping him with certain things where I know in the future when I need a favor, he'll hook me up and help me out with maybe not as expensive videos or whatever it is. So I think, and obviously Dave can expand on this because you have an amazing network too. I think your network is also what allows you to grow and to be more efficient. If you have the right pieces and you have the right relationships, you can pull a deal together quicker. You can close a deal. Personally, if you have a great network, you have more support. You have more people that you can reach to in a time of need. So
to add to your point, Mike, on the whole theme of your network is your net worth, I do want to elaborate on that a little bit. And you spoke on the business side of things, but also establishing networks in every aspect and lane in your life is very important. And if you think about it, think about the theme from when we were like kids, right? And if a teacher pulls you aside and says, this kid is really a bad influence on you, right? It's the same concept as you get older, whether that's in your business or in your fitness journey. But it's something that I think it starts internally, right? And the external factor is the moving parts that are, your network on the outside, but it's really being specific and finding out exactly what it is that you want. So I am so conscious these days, when it is in my fitness journey right now, and I'm talking about, the elevating my spin game in terms of the bike, I'm obviously going to seek out people who are a little bit better at spinning than I am, right? In my business, we've had the conversation about, commissioners, county officials, state officials. We were just talking about that last episode. I'm very specific with my intent. And by doing that, you will automatically begin to elevate yourself if you're hanging around people who are not too far ahead of you, but they basically, their habits and the way that they do business will rub off on you. So that's what ultimately establishes your net worth as a whole, is going out and specifically finding people that are living the life that you are after, but still very important to bring the whole value to them. And again, this is not just in terms of a mentorship, like we spoke about on the last epi, this is something that's so much bigger. And I've been so conscious of it, as of the past, I'd say 2 years really. But I feel that I'm a product of that concept right there. And not that my money has skyrocketed by any means. But I feel that the way that I'm living my life currently is a reflection of the people that I hang around constantly.
That's a good point. And it's realizing that it's not specifically about volume, it's about quality. Because you only have a limited amount of time to provide value to people, engage with people that are worth engaging with, family, friends. There's just a limited time. So it's like more and more you realize that it's hard to keep in touch with people, both professionally and personally. So you got to be smart about how you do it and who you prioritize. So you can just be kind of being very surface level with a lot of people.
Yep. And it's your intent. That's the biggest thing. What is your intention when you wake up every single morning? What is your intention for the day? Who are you surrounding yourself with? You can have all the friends in the world that you want to have personally, but when it comes to those lanes that you're trying to get better in, you better be specific about who you're hanging around and who you're trying to target to get into your life.
Yeah, and if someone in your life, they don't have to provide value to you, you could still just have fun with them. But if they're reflecting on you negatively, that's when you have to reevaluate.
Exactly. It's the consciousness, being conscious. Because if you were my childhood friend, from way back when, and we have absolutely nothing in common right now, that's fine. We could still hang out. But when I'm conscious about trying to get better in business, you might not be the person that I'm coming to. If that is clear.
No, that was good.
And obviously, Mike Pirelli, you are in every single one of my networks, which is interesting though, because you see, right? But it's funny. You're in my personal network. You're in the business network. You're everywhere, and we're all living, the same type of lifestyle right now. But we're conscious of that, and we're making that effort.
Yes.
Last question, Mike. This came in from Ashley. How do I create a new norm for myself?
You want me to run with this first?
Run away, kid.
So I think it takes time to develop a new norm. You get into these routines and it takes a lot of time without any type of big distraction like we're going through now. So you have to be fair to yourself and say, I need a certain amount of time to try things and then start to figure out what's working. And then start to stick to the certain things that are working. For me, last week, I tried to adjust to a new norm, sleep in a little later. That created more chaos in my life and felt like I was trying to catch up with things. All my timelines were compressed. So this week, I tried to go back to my previous norm, but also now my new norm, and wake up at 5. And I understand that, yes, I'm not getting up and going to the gym, but it still helps me in my day. So I rolled that back into it. And it's stuff like that and figuring out what's working, what's not working to start establishing the new norm. But give yourself time to get it to a place where you're comfortable with it and it becomes the habits, Are you
Beautiful.
Still waking up at 5? Do you have a new schedule? How has it affected you?
Well, so... And I know I touched on it earlier in the episode in terms of the finances, but me personally, I am waking up actually a little bit later because my live Peloton class doesn't start till 6:30.
And I love it. I love beating you up in the morning, and that's why I led you into this because it feels good.
No, but creating this new norm. I'll give you an example with the push-ups. Right. And this is a concept now. And again, I don't advise it for everybody. You have to see if this can work for you. But there's 2 ways of doing things. It's diving right in, like we said, or gradually doing it. But for fitness, look at what we did with these push-ups, right? We were doing, maybe I was doing 150 to 200 a day included in my workout. Then Mike had this whole challenge where now we were doing 1,000 a day. Right, we created a new norm for literally, I did it from November till February of 1,000 plus every single day, right? So that time frame, it was very hard to do those push-ups. But now when somebody asks me to do 400 push-ups, I laugh because I know what it's like, and I dove right in. So I took what was a norm for me of 150 to 200. Mike challenged me, made it 1,000. So now when somebody comes at me and is like, yeah, I could do 300, 400, like, dude, that's light work, right? So you establish a new norm. That's a way that you can do it, in terms of jumping right in. Again, if you're not in fitness like that, that's a really bad move, and you should be gradual in it. But it's seeing what approach works for you and ultimately deciding, how far do I want to take it.
The other thing I want to say too is that, to build on what you're saying, is that my gradualness of, I really got the push-ups back into the routine, but I also now am trying to figure out where to work from. So right now I'm in my dining room, but yesterday or 2 days ago I was in my basement in the garage in the back with no heat with a space heater because I needed a separate space to get a lot of stuff done. It didn't work because it was, number one, it was freezing down there. And then number two, I just didn't have access to everything. I didn't have a space that was big enough to sprawl out. So this week, or at least the last couple of days, I've moved back into the dining room. So I'm moving my business all around the house to see where I'm more profitable. But it's You got to be okay with saying, oh, well, that idea was not good. Let me try something else, and not to be stubborn.
No, that makes a ton of sense, man. And just to give you some insight, and I don't want to break your horns over this one, but there's an exercise that I've been trying, and it's not touching your phone for the first 20 to 30 minutes that you're up. So it's tough because we're trying to. But we're trying to, go on, and you're looking at things. We're taking the selfies. We're posting it online. But in the second episode, I believe, second or third in terms of the habits, gratitude is always a big piece for me in the morning. So now I've taken my daily, gratitude piece, and I've turned it over to something that's a little bit longer. And I'm trying to stay off the social media for the first 20 to 30 minutes. But then in the back of my head, I have Mike Pirelli, that I know is waking up before me, but he's really not, because I just can't post. But I'll give it to you, this past week, you've definitely
Wait. What time have you been waking up?
All right.
What time are you waking up?
So the past couple of days since I got the Peloton, the alarm goes off 5:15 to 5:30.
I'm up at 4:45 now.
Right. But
I might just start not sleeping.
But if I really want to compete with you, Mike, I will wake up just like I always did for years now at the same 4:30, 4:15 time frame. Remember, you're still putting your elbows, you're trying to put your elbows at the table. You're slowly making it. Your forearms are now there. So I appreciate you, and I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Listen, I'm beating the sun up. Every time I wake up, and I always, you know what I do the first time when I wake up? I look at our Instagram page, and I see if you post anything on the story. If you don't, I giggle, I make a drink, and I chug it in victory. So,
but it's tough, right? Like, if I'm over here trying to practice gratitude, and then I got to worry about like Mike's like,
I have gratitude when I post first.
All right, so wait, before we get into this last piece though, can we acknowledge that there are people now reaching out and requesting that they want us to wake them up in the morning? Mike, did you see that?
Yeah, it's hilarious. That you should start sending that meme to everyone. Get on a chain. There's apps now. Sorry, I'm grabbing my dog because working at home is chaos. There's apps now where you can get everyone's phone number. It's like a group text. We got to figure that out.
And you send
yeah, but I think you need to be famous, so.
All right, yeah. So hopefully by next year, maybe we make it big. I remember Dana was wishing us well with that, right? She was like, I don't know if you're trying to do this to be famous.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm trying to stay under the radar.
Yeah, I definitely want to stay low key. I hate attention. So this will bring us to Dave's Dime of the Week.
Dimes. Dana sneezed too on that. Hopefully we got that on audio.
This right here, Mike, is by Winston Churchill.
Oh, Winnie.
When you're 20, you care what everyone thinks. When you're 40, you stop caring what everyone thinks. When you're 60, you realize no one was ever thinking about you in the first place.
That's a good one. Every once in a while, I think in my head, like, no one cares.
But that, right. True. No, but that applies to me right now, right? Yeah. Like, when I think about certain purchases and certain things that I do, I'd be lying to you if I said, wow, I didn't want people to think XYZ of me. You know, it's not the best way to live your life, but again, I'd be lying if I said there's purchases that I'm not focused on that. But if I have that mindset right now and I was like, you know what, I really don't care what anyone has to say, and I wanted to drive a 1999, Toyota Camry, which I used to have, by the way.
I thought you were gonna shout out my car. I was like, oh, you messed up.
No, I would be much better off. But there's a certain piece of me that's like, wow, I don't want people to think, if I'm pulling up to work in this thing or I'm going to meetings, they have a perception of me. But in the long run, it doesn't really matter. Run your own race and get after it at your own speed, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've always had this weird ability to not really care. I used to wear Heelys on Fridays to high school, which looking back, it's probably not the coolest move, but it was very efficient, effective, and convenient.
And convenient, baby.
I'm going to throw that every episode. So that brings us to Miguelito's mantras.
Ito. You got to let me do your intro.
You got to hurry up with this. Dana's hungry over here.
Oh, gotcha.
I also started learning a little bit of Italian, so we'll get into that in another episode. Mine is I saw the documentary for Barstool. I'm halfway through. Very interesting how they built their brand and just business-wise. And Dave Portnoy, his quote, which I thought was hilarious, his high school quote, was "Overpromise, overdeliver," which I like.
That's a great one because you expect and you always hear, what is it? Underpromise,
overdeliver.
Which you had told me that I was doing in an episode. You had referenced that. But this is a good point because if you're overpromising and you're overdelivering, you're never setting a standard and you're always trying to overachieve, which is what the No Snooze podcast and the No Snooze lifestyle is all about.
Yep, and you're putting yourself in that corner where your back's against the wall because you're like, ooh, I overpromise. I got to figure out how to actually do that, which creates growth.
You got to perform, kid. So that'll wrap us up and give us to our last section of Heat on the Feet.
All right, let me see if I can get my leg up here. So this is for the morale of the country. Doing this as a patriot right now. Let's go.
Yes. Wait, but show the stars. Show the stars.
Oh, it didn't get it all the way up? Oh, no, on my camera.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, I got you.
You can't really
see. Those are nice. But didn't you have are those from your wedding or no?
No. So fun.
I have those.
These
still,
are from
which
Frank.
Were great socks.
So those, the picture was black. Talk about over-promising, under-delivering. Those are black, and then I bought them, and then they showed a blue. And I was like, this is not what was in the photo. And the guy's like, oh, they're fine. It's a flag. I was like, all right, I guess I'll just buy new socks for everyone. So
just making the best out of every situation, kid.
Right.
So that's it, man. That's another Epi in the books. That's Epi 15. Until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
My man.
Also, go follow us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Wherever you find us, follow us, subscribe. Love you.
That's another Epi in the books. Go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at No Snooze Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Come on.